Oh, we'll try and be lit, yeah. That's another go. That's Wylfa. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my regular Tuesday Freeport Facebook Live. I've got a very, very special guest here, Julia, who's the MD of Sizewell C. But before I introduce Julia, I'll just give you a run through. I've had a really fantastic few days, coronation few days on the island. I started on Thursday by going to see a company, a few companies. Went to see Monesto in Holyhead, Louise, Warren and Boy, and Aled was very supportive about my Welsh. I went to see the Citizens Advice in Holyhead, and Jackie and her team have won a £720,000 UK community grant to support their caseworkers. Then I went to Affinity at RF Valley, excellent chat with Jordan Humphreys, who is a flight line mechanic trainee, and Georgie, who is Paul Jorgensen, who's a newly qualified licensed aircraft engineer. Also went to Mona Precast in Gerwin, caught up with Evie, Chris, Nigel, Glyn, and Arwen. That's a family business. They've been going for around 60 years and trading, and we talked about what Freeport status will mean to Mona Precast, and also went to Kevney Hospital in Llangefni. Diana Jones, the ward manager there, the ward clerk, took me around Kemlyn ward, which is a dementia ward, and really excited to see some of their coronation celebrations. On Friday morning, I caught up with Kristin from Cuffin Coffee in Holyhead, a few doors down from my office, and Nia Gardner kindly invited me to Garragluid residential home in Holyhead, and I gave her some of my union bunting. Then I was off to Holyhead School at the invitation of Anne-Marie Baldwin, who's the English teacher, and the head, Mr. Adam Williams. Met some fantastic Year 12 students, and also some of the more senior students, Holyhead, and we talked about my journey to becoming an MP, and my goals and ambitions for the island, and obviously about Freeport status as well. And Friday afternoon I went to Kerguelen School. I think it's my third visit there. Simon Brown, the deputy head, invited me along there, and along with Mr. Williams, the head, and I helped hand out some of the coronation medals and special C's, and it was really lovely to catch up with the young students there. Then it was off to Bentley. I support lots of sports clubs across the island, football clubs, rugby clubs, cricket clubs, and I've now branched out into bowls. I actually had a bowling lesson, which was quite fun, in Bentley. And then on Friday evening was at the Gwalchmai Arms, catching up with Steph Roberts. On Saturday, Amanda Rutter invited me to Brynamore, which is a care home in Nebo in the north of the island, and I met up with Nicola and the fabulous George, full of beans there, and great to see their coronation plans. Then it was to Holyhead, to the Market Hall. Townscape Heritage were doing a coronation event. Then I watched the coronation at the Keldra Centre, where I'm patron. Then it was over to the Wild Boat House, who were doing events for the coronation. Then to Llangoed, Delith Jones invited me. They had a fantastic screening of the coronation, and they gave me a fantastic lunch. I helped behind the bar there. Then it was over to Llanfaes. Kelly Williams had attained a grant, community grant, and had an excellent celebration there. Then it was back to Llangefni for arts and crafts. Then on Sunday, I went to caught up with John Williams, who's the beach warden over in Rossniger. Then I went to the Rossniger big lunch, met up with Elvis, aka Terry, and a few friends there. Then over to Trial the Bay, where Debbie Carmichael had an event for children in the village hall there, and there was a great display of the local history, and a lot of hard work from Abby and Bethan Davis, who'd supporting the community there. Then across to Langor Community Hall to catch up with Adrian and Nia, and had an excellent bouncy castle there. Then I cycled to the White Eagle, which has been redone, very, very dog friendly, all out delicious food and great staff there. Yesterday in the rain went to Brumaris, so there was an excellent craft market, and I bought a lot of produce from the Celtic stall there. Over to the RNLI pop-up, where I bought some bedding plants for the garden. And then to Bose, caught up with Joe at Bose Tea Room, and then the Central Bakery, which has got some fantastic coronation displays, and Ian, as the newsagent, always has an excellent window. Then I was up to Amloch. Kerry and Murray Jones invited me to the Army Cadets. They had a excellent celebration there. I did the raffle. Then across to Holyhead Town Hall, Helen Barton, her team, really fun entertainment, amazing talent we've got there. And of course Miv, Dave and Kev and Matt, excellent disco. And then I finished the day yesterday at St Grenfines Hall, where they had a crown competition. They even had dogs with crowns. So there's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of my coronation weekend on Anglesey. But I'd like to hand over to Julia now. So Julia, what's your experience with Wales? How well do you know Wales? Have you been to Wales much?
Well, my husband's Welsh. I'm Mrs. Meredith when I'm not at work.
Right.
And so I've often been to South Wales, where he's from, and actually my uncle lives on Anglesey, and my grandparents were in North Wales, so I've been to Wales a lot, and obviously it's a very beautiful and lovely place.
Right, so your uncle lives on Anglesey. Whereabouts? Are you allowed to say whereabouts on Anglesey?
He lives on the inland sea.
Oh, right.
Near to Valley.
Oh, that's lovely there. Very lovely. Excellent. So will you be visiting soon?
I would very much like to visit. It'd be a huge highlight of my calendar.
Well, you'll get a warm welcome. So can you tell us a bit about your background? How did you get to have such a fantastic, important job?
So in my fantastic important life, I actually did English at university, but then decided to become a lawyer, and spent around about only 25 years being a lawyer. And as a lawyer, I did all sorts of projects, and I did wind, I did solar, I did nuclear, I did Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And what I saw is that it's quite hard to build new technologies in the UK. So it's very hard to build the Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon, and indeed it didn't get built because there wasn't really the policy for it.
Right.
And I did the work for Hinkley at the same time, and I saw that we did have the policy to build nuclear, and therefore we should get on with building more nuclear as part of a mix, together with wind, solar, all sorts of other things. I'm very supportive of basically anything which contributes to energy security, low carbon, and creates lots of jobs in the UK. So nuclear scores highly on those, so I decided to leave the law and come over to help develop Sizewell C.
Oh, excellent. And then tell us a bit about Sizewell C and what you've learned from that in terms of how it's integrated in the community. I mean, I've visited Sizewell C. I'm actually going next. I'm talking about Hinkley. Sorry. In terms of what you've learned from the Hinkley experience, I've visited Hinkley. I'm actually going next Thursday, and what it means for the community, what it means for the young people and the businesses.
So Hinkley is a fantastic learning experience for all of us, and it really emphasises not only the need for a social licence to build a power station somewhere, and that there has to be a significant benefit of the local community, because you are asking the community to bear the inconvenience of construction traffic and everything that goes with construction. We can't deny that it has less great features for people, but the case has to be that it brings much more than the problems it causes. So Hinkley, I think, is well on the way to having actually put 5 billion into the regional economy of the South West. It's got a fantastic track record of employing people who live locally. It's great at taking people in at a junior level and then actually helping people have whole careers. So people aren't just doing a job. You can come in as a cleaner in Hinkley and end up running the concrete batching plant. There are all sorts of stories. And actually Stuart Crooks, who runs it, he started as an apprentice. And Nigel Cann, who's just come across from Hinkley to co-lead Sizewell with me, he also started as an apprentice. So you've got two people running two major nuclear projects, both of whom started there as 16-year-old apprentices and are now very senior in the organisation. And nuclear's full of that sort of journey. So I think in the southwest, the benefits of Hinkley hugely outweigh the detriment of the construction.
And you've got quite a lot of businesses. I think it's 162 Welsh businesses are currently working on the Hinkley development, and I think the supply chain contracts are 250 million upwards. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's right. We have a huge amount of Welsh content, and actually a lot of the workforce lives in Wales, comes over to Severn Bridge. Wales is really important. There have been some great steel work done in Wales, including recycled steel, and we would very much look forward to replicating that sort of scope again for Sizewell. So we hope to work with basically the same Welsh businesses, and look to at least do the same as, and hopefully more than, the Hinkley content in Wales.
Excellent. We've got a few good evenings. Jenna, noswaith dda, Jenna, looking forward to seeing you at the weekend. Make it your business on a small, noswaith dda. That's good evening, Noswaithar. Mon Training, Noswaithar, Virginia. Nice to see you, John. Lee Stebbins, hi Lee. And a great question here from Make It Your Business on a Small. Will you be able to skill up local people if we get the go-ahead for Wylfa? And we have new businesses here for the Freeport. There'll be lots of jobs. So are we going to skill up all ages? So not just young people, older people as well?
I think that's a really great question, because we talk a lot about skilling up young people. And of course, we absolutely do need to skill up young people, so starting in schools and moving through. But you're quite right, we need to skill up people of all ages. I'm quite keen on skilling myself up. I think people in their 50s are great. So we want to skill up people of all ages, and yeah, to sort of stop this idea that it's only about school kids and students. It's about everybody. There will be jobs for everybody. There will be really a lot of jobs, and we will be very, very focused on making sure that local people have the skills. Wherever we build, we have a commitment to take at least 1/3 of the workforce from the local area.
So we've got Hinkley C, and then we've got Sizewell C that you're MD of, and this government is committed to having one new gigawatt, one nuclear project going to FID, to financial investment decision, within this Parliament. So I think it's widely believed that Sizewell C.
Yeah.
Well done there. And then two in the next Parliament. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on Wylfa? You spoke quite a lot about Wylfa and the Welsh Affairs Select Committee. We did a whole, almost a whole year, I think, project investigation into new nuclear in Wales. What are your thoughts on Wylfa?
So everybody always talks about what a fantastic site Wylfa is, and I don't think anyone's in any doubt about that. Nuclear engineers love the idea of building up Wylfa.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. And if the government wants another gigawatt project, we would love to build another UK EPR at Wylfa. We would say that we have.
You might need to explain what an EPR is.
Sorry. If we build another one of the same type that we've built at Hinkley and at Sizewell, so we've done all of this work to get the design approved to build Hinkley, and we're building it. As we build it, we learn lessons all the time. There are 2 units at Hinkley. So Unit 1 is first of a kind. Unit 2, we're able to then copy Unit 1. It goes faster. It's essentially cheaper. Sizewell C will take a lot of the benefit of that. So we'll try and treat it as effectively Hinkley Unit 3. And if we could repeat the same again, cookie cutter, take design, take experienced team, adding all the time to the team, and in particular with a huge focus on local jobs, then that would be a great outcome.
Because that's one of the criticisms, isn't it? How long nuclear takes. So if we can get this fleet mentality, which is why we've got the launch of Great British Nuclear, and that is going to be headed up by, or is headed up by Gwen Parry-Jones, who went to Brumaris Primary School, and she's obviously working at Magnox in the north of the island. So it's great to have a woman heading it up, and great to have a Welsh woman as well.
Very much so.
But in terms of the getting that fleet mentality, so you're saying you'd have 1 and 2 EPR at Hinkley, and then 3 and 4 at Sizewell, and then potentially 5 and 6 at Wylfa. And there's a lot of discussion about the length of time and the amount of money, and clearly the length of time it does increase the cost. So if we can get that fleet mentality and we can get that time down, that's going to bring the costs down significantly.
Yeah, it really it does. A lot of the money that's spent in nuclear is spent on paperwork, and if you're repeating things, you just do keep reducing the paperwork, and that would be a really good thing. And then of course, if you have a team which includes people who've done the job once, twice, third, fourth, third time, fourth time, they of course are going to do it even better the 5th and 6th time. It's just human nature. So we learn by doing, essentially.
And Ken Chalice Jones says, hello Virginia, have you thought about a tunnel? Ken, I don't hear, not many people ask about a tunnel. They ask about another crossing across the Menai. Certainly not many people have talked about a tunnel. Ellie and Williams, good evening ladies, good evening, thank you. Frederica John, how many apprenticeships are there likely to be for young people?
So Hinkley committed to take 1,000 apprentices, and it's actually beaten that target. It's on its 1,000 and something hundred. For Sizewell, we've committed to at least 1,500 apprentices. So we'd be looking, if we were able, if the government wanted us to build another 2 units at Wylfa, we'd be looking at least 1,500, possibly more.
Great. And then when I went to Hinckley, there's a couple of apprentices actually. One was from Anglesey and one was from Gwynedd. And when they leave, they're taking the Welsh language and their community and their culture with them, and they really want to come back home. So it'd be great to have those apprentices. But some young people on the island, Wylfa was happening. Everyone's very excited about it.
Yeah.
They did their part. They upskilled. They were apprentices, and your colleague Menai, it was great investment there. And then they had to find work elsewhere. So what would you say to these young people that had did what people lost, and yet it hasn't actually worked out for them?
I think it's incredibly disappointing for them, of course, not to have the power station on Anglesey to enable them to live in their community. And I think that Hinckley actually did take quite a few of the Horizon apprentices, and we really very much hope that there is a nuclear power station built on Anglesey. We'd love it to be one of ours, but we're very supportive of any power station being built on Anglesey, and to allow people to go and exercise a professional skill back on Anglesey. For Sizewell, we have some young people from Suffolk who are working at Hinckley with the specific mission of being trained in the southwest and then to come back, live in their home community. And we'd really love to do that for Wales too.
Excellent. And then on training, are there short-term plans for companies starting up here on Anglesey? Now we have a free port. Lots of discussions seem long-term, may take a few years to develop. With the loss of two sisters, I worry that retraining the staff are undergoing there. Still is no work for them to get into. Excellent question from Mon Training. Thank you very much. You're absolutely right. I mean, my job has been to get the free port. I've been working for over 3.5 years on that. I set up and chaired the Anglesey Freeport Bidding Consortium, working with the council, Stena Line, with the university, MSpark, and North Wales Economic Ambition Board, and colleague Menai. So it's been really a lot of people working hard to make sure we got Freeport status. And obviously it was announced just a few weeks ago. The Prime Minister and the First Minister came to Holyhead. But really, my role is making sure that the Freeport is a success. So I've been bringing companies around the island, and recently Chachi, hopefully you'll come around the island as well, Julia, and ensuring not only have we got the jobs coming in at the top with investment. In the short term, we're looking at around 3,500 jobs, rising to 13,000 in the medium to long term, and £1 billion worth of economic investment, but also ensuring that we've got our young people and our not so young people have got the skills with which to take advantage of these work. I mean, if we got Wylfa up and running, how many construction jobs would you estimate, and how many sort of maintenance jobs would you think?
So at Pyke, there is around about 7,000 jobs. There are actually more at Hinckley at the moment because there's a big COVID backlog. But sort of around about 7,000 at Pyke. On a permanent basis, there are sort of 800-900 jobs permanently operating, and then when there's an outage, the periodic maintenance outages bring sort of huge economic benefit to the area, because you get a big influx of contractors in the hotels, and of course people from the island also could be outage maintenance engineers.
Oh, that's right.
So I mean, as people in Anglesey will know, nuclear power stations are a great long-term support, and I think the combination with the Freeport is a great combination. So we're particularly keen in Sizewell on the Felixstowe Freeport area, because of course that brings in all the logistics that you need for big construction.
That's a really good point that our other guests haven't made, actually.
Yeah.
So in terms of because obviously the England Freeports are a year ahead. We've lost a year because of sort of discussions between the Welsh government and UK governments, which is very disappointing, particularly given the 730 people lost their job recently at Two Sisters. But you're a year ahead of us. So what have you seen? I mean, you're probably a great person to ask.
Well, what we've seen is a real focus on how the big construction project can work with the developing Freeport, so that the Freeport is sort of in part shaped by a response to the construction project. We've seen, I mean, Suffolk anyway, because it's got these, as indeed Anglesey does, has an awful lot of maritime business. It's quite focused on bringing things in by sea, so bringing things in by sea is particularly critical if you don't want to clog up roads, bridges, rail, etc. So maximising your marine logistics, it's very helpful to have the Freeport. And then this focus on Freeports being powered potentially by hydrogen, making the use case. So nuclear, heat, electricity can both be hugely useful for making hydrogen alongside renewables. And so, as you know, in order to have a successful hydrogen business, you need a case for people to use hydrogen. So we in Sizewell we are shortly going to be ordering around about 150 hydrogen buses, and that will actually spark it's bad word to use with hydrogen, but give rise to the use case for making hydrogen in Suffolk, and so that should enable the other businesses who want to move their heavy vehicles over to hydrogen to work with us, so that companies like Anglian Water will be looking at hydrogen for their big heavy vehicles. The ports themselves, there are port vehicles available in hydrogen form. There's a hope for hydrogen HGVs. So if you have this something which is sparked off by the big construction project having an actual near-term need, that can be hugely useful for the Freeport too.
Excellent, because we've got our own Holyhead Hydrogen Hub, that's a 4.8 million of investment, and the key business plan needs these off-takers, which you're talking about. And I think there's a lot to be said about hydrogen and the nuclear sector. We call it like pink hydrogen, I guess, and I think if you want to decarbonise the transport sector, which is the real sort of holy grail towards net zero, I think that is critical, and I think hydrogen will play a key part in that. And it's very exciting about your hydrogen buses. So we've got here Edward Peter Henry Bingham. Hi Virginia. Oh, you're watching it from France. You're just trying to rub it in there, Edward. Thank you very much. I hope you're having lovely weather there. Trez Rowe. Hi Virginia and Julia. Oh, this is Simon on Trez's Facebook. Investment and employment opportunities are critical for the prosperity of Anglesey and North Wales. I'd like to ask, what conversations are happening with the nuclear industry to ensure that they come to Anglesey?
Well, if national policy enables a big gigawatt project on Anglesey, then part of the settlement around the planning would be that at least a third of the jobs would come from the local area. Of course, local can't be just Anglesey because you won't have enough people, but it would be defined, and we would look to create targeted apprenticeships, targeted jobs for people from the island.
And one of the things, I was in the chamber this afternoon, it was Treasury questions, OPQs, oral questions, and one of the minister, John Glenn, was talking about these enterprise zones and how you're getting sort of corridors, and I would expect we'll see that with North Wales. And not only have we got Wylfa as a great site, we've got Charles Funner for radioisotopes, we've got the Nuclear Institute at Bangor University, we've got NNL headquarters in Wales at MSpark, so we're getting this nice sort of little sort of nuclear cohort, and hopefully that will bring other people into the area. Glyn Jones asks, how do you propose to transfer the energy from Wylfa to the national grid? We do not want any more pylons. There's a group on the island which are against pylons, and so have you got any thoughts on pylons?
I think it's a really great question. I think that there's a lot of disquiet about the amount of infrastructure needed to take electricity from where it's made to where it's used. I think that there's a lot of pressure on the national grid to look at absolute ring mains in the sea, and I think that if that's something which develops, I think it will make everybody's lives a lot easier, because there will no longer be the controversy of putting pylons where pylons have not historically run. Obviously there is a pylon run through Anglesey, but the question of whether or not they would need to be strengthened and made larger for the gigawatt power station is a very live question.
And Phil says the idea of this fleet mentality sounds very promising indeed. Absolutely, Phil. Make it your business small. Will we be able to transfer skills from Sizewell C development if we get Wylfa? Yeah, definitely.
The skills run all the way through from getting planning consent, getting all the environmental consents, making the case to have the for the income for the RAB model, all the way through construction. Yeah, absolutely. We would look in the same way that we have taken skills from Hinckley to Sizewell in a programmatic way. We'd look to do the same thing. Sizewell to Wylfa.
And then Jay Clary. Oh, hi Jay. I saw your lovely girls. I think is it Leah? I can't remember, and Thea actually on Friday at Kig Eliog School. He asked them, they're gorgeous by the way in their Spice Girl coronation outfits. Where is Bradwell in the model proposal and CGN? So
CGN currently owns the Bradwell site, and I'm not aware that CGN is actively developing it at the moment. I'm not really sure what's happening with it. I think that it is thought generally, this is not policy, this is my view, I think it's generally thought that the next gigawatt power station will probably be built at Wylfa.
Okay. And then in terms of other questions, I get a lot of questions about the disposal of nuclear waste.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, we've got, as an industry, we've got a very good track record there. There's continuing investment there. But any sort of development has obviously got risks. How do we minimise those risks?
Well, I encourage anybody worried about nuclear waste to come and visit the Sizewell B dry waste store. So that's where you can see that the fuel rod, like this pen, is encased in metal and then concrete, and it is completely inert. If you want to hug it, you can hug it. You won't get any sort of radioactivity reading. It's completely safe. So they sit in the dry waste store. They're completely safe. They're not subject to terrorism or any other sort of bad actors, and I think it makes people feel a lot calmer that you can see it.
Yes.
So I do encourage people, if they're interested, to get in touch, and we'll organise trips to the Sizewell B dry waste store, and also you can see pictures of it online. Over the long term, of course, the geological repository will be built and there will be a disposal solution. But I'd emphasise what you say, Virginia. Nuclear waste has never caused harm to any human. There's much worried about, but it's actually dealt with incredibly safely. And I think the other thing about it, if you look at the Sizewell B dry waste store, you can see how very small in volume it is. Yeah. There's not a lot of it, so you can look at a concrete canister, which is sort of I can't really do the gesture, but it's sort of like 3 times bigger than the circle of my arms, and you can see that in that concrete canister is fuel which has powered 3% of the nation's electricity for 18 months. Yeah. So you can see how very small the downside is, and very safely dealt with.
And one of the things we've talked about quite a lot is the financing, and we had the nuclear financing bill committee, which I was on. We had a lot of evidence there, and so we've got the RAB, the regulated asset base financing model, which has been used for large infrastructure projects like the Thames Tideway tunnel. And I know you're a bit of an expert in the RAB. How do you see the RAB? We haven't used it yet for nuclear, so I think Sizewell C would be the first.
It would, yeah.
And what does that mean in terms of the cost per megawatt hour, in terms of that 92.50 for Hinkley C? That would go down to 89. Is that correct? And then what would that mean for the consumer? What will they see on their bill? What does it mean? How much will they be paying for their energy?
Well, if you think about what you pay for in the electricity bill, you're not paying for a particular technology type. You're paying to flick the switch and the light comes on, etc. And so what makes up the cost of that is a range of things, including what does it cost to generate that electricity, whether it was from wind or solar or nuclear or gas. What did it then cost to fill in where you've got lots of renewables? What does it cost to fill in when you don't have renewables? So that's why we've seen prices go up so much in the gas price crisis. And then how much does it cost to take it from where it's generated to where it's used? And then sort of policy costs like insulation and levy costs. So that's what makes up the totality of your bill. And the case for Sizewell, the case for nuclear, not just Sizewell, is that although it's very expensive to build, we could never deny that, it actually takes down the cost of your electricity because it's less expensive than building the massive overbuild of renewables you would need in order to make sure you always have renewables, whatever the weather, plus storage. That's a much more expensive future for a low carbon electricity system than a system with the right amount of nuclear supporting the growth in renewables. So essentially, the case for Sizewell is it will bring your bills down once it's on.
Excellent. And so in terms of their bill, what will they actually see though on their bills? Will it be obvious that their energy is coming from their funding nuclear?
It'd be like the bit on your bill, if you ever look at the pie chart which will come on your bill, and of course people don't anymore because all bills are online, but if you did, you'd see a pie chart, and in that pie chart you'd see a piece of the pie which was for contract for difference payments, and those contract for difference payments at the moment largely go to wind, some to Drax. In the future they'll also go to Hinkley. So you'd see another bit of the pie like that. So you'd have your CFD bit of the pie and then your RAB bit of the pie.
A question from Lynn Hayden-Williams about the RSPCA investigating prosecuting instead of the CPS. Lynn, great question, but not what we're talking about. But I mean, a couple of years ago, the RSPCA handed the cases over to the CPS so they could focus on cruelty and actually doing their job. But if you want a more detailed answer, Lynn, drop me an email, and I'll happily happily answer that question. Well, we've got a question here from John John Woodburn. It's great to see GBN being given a statutory role, though an arrangement amendment through the energy bill. The energy bill is actually being talked about in Westminster now as we speak. How will this benefit Wylfa going forward?
I think that everything which increases public confidence and industry confidence in nuclear is great news for Wylfa going forward. I think that there can be a temptation for people to see different low carbon technologies competing against each other, or for people to see different forms of nuclear competing against each other. You know, we've got this huge government target of 24 gigawatts. There's room for everybody, and I work very closely with Simon and Gwen. I think the formation of GBN is great. I think the more people who want to come into the nuclear industry, whether it's to come into gigawatt or SMR or in the future advanced modular, it's all good. It all contributes to having a thriving industry, and a thriving industry is what we need to get prices down.
Brilliant. Well, we're at 7 o'clock. That's gone so quickly.
It has.
Thank you so much, Julia. It's been fantastic to have you here as my guest, and thank you for being so. Your knowledge is phenomenal and very much appreciated. Thank you everybody for your questions, the questions you've emailed in, and the questions on the screen. It's been lovely to have you here in my office here in Westminster. Tomorrow I've got the Welsh Affairs Select Committee, and then we've got Prime Minister's questions, and then I'll be on the island on Friday. We've got a huge celebration for Anglesey being a free port in Holyhead. Really looking forward to that, and I'll be out and about on Saturday and Sunday at home on the island, and look forward to meeting up with many of you. My guest next Tuesday is Mark Salisbury. Do you know Mark from the Nuclear Institute? Yep. So he's a trustee there, so he'll be answering. He's basically going to do a nuclear mythbuster session. So please send any questions you've got regarding nuclear, and hopefully Mark Salisbury will be there to answer your questions. But I wish you all a lovely evening, and look forward to catching up with you next Tuesday. Diolch yn fawr.